Hi, everybody. Welcome to episode number 18 of the Fitness Devil podcast. Today we have our friend Chad Hargrove joining us. He's a Toronto-based personal trainer and online trainer and an Instagram personality. So stick around and check it out. And if you like this or any other episode, please consider subscribing and share it with someone that you know who you think might be interested in it. It helps us grow and reach more people. Thanks. Enjoy the episode.
Shut up and sit down.
Hi, everybody. This is Andrew Coates, and sitting across from me is Dean Guido, and we're good. Today, I can't even talk. We have our friend Chad Hargrove on the line. We actually fucked up the first time that we recorded this one with Chad, so this is actually a redo. We lost the original recording, so he was gracious enough to come back to us. So Chad's a Toronto-based personal trainer and online coach who's really blowing up in the online space right now. So thanks for coming on, Chad. How are you doing today, buddy?
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. I'm good. I just finished my oatmeal. I haven't had my coffee yet.
What?
Just answer some emails, and I kind of just get into the swing of the New Year's thing, which is starting to pick up a little bit.
Yeah, well, last time we talked, it would have been it was right before Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So what's changed? Oh, I guess no one even heard what happened before Christmas. How's life been since Christmas?
I think it's like pretty much the exact same as it was. I don't know. Just we're 2 weeks ahead. That's big. That's a really interesting answer of what's been happening. Life's pretty much the same. To be honest.
Have you noticed a jump in the New Year's, like people reaching out to you, want to come work with you, the online space? Did you get the New Year's resolution crowd come your way?
I think it's starting to as of like the last few days. So I think actually I guess this would be my second year in business, but my first year, I guess, actually in business, whereas last year I was just like scraping in a new city. This time around, I think it picks up probably around the second week of January once everyone starts getting into the gyms a little bit more. Or gets into the gyms and start realizing that they aren't really sure what they're doing. So I did have a pretty good December as far as interest goes, but I think I'm starting to see it kind of pick up right now.
When you mentioned being in for 2 years, but that's not really the case. Like, you've been a trainer for quite a while, and I kind of want to touch base on that a little bit just to start us off, is that you were at a commercial gym before. So kind of explain to our listeners what that was like, what that environment's like, and kind of some of the challenges and drawbacks of being part of that, and some of, like, I guess, the ups.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think if you are a trainer, you probably understand where I'm coming from with this one. And, it's you're there for 12, 13 hours a day. You're up at 6 a.m. You're there till 8 or 9 and you're probably not taking home most of the money. So it's a pretty big grind in that, you might be doing work on 7 days a week and 13 hours, but also probably not necessarily getting paid the way you should be. But also, on the other hand, I mean, not to knock it completely, it's also an opportunity to get some business thrown your way and to figure yourself as a trainer. So, I mean, I think you can talk about the negatives and positives, and like there's both. I use it as a time to invest a lot in myself as a trainer versus in myself as a business person, I guess. And over the course of 2 years, that started to really pay off, where my clients started getting better results than other people did. But it was a hard time of my life because there wasn't too much time for anything else. I was living at home with my parents because I wasn't making enough money to get by. But it's starting to pay off now. But there were some challenges for sure.
It just brings to mind our last podcast episode we recorded with Dean Somerset. We always sneak him in. It's like a running joke at this point right now, so we'll get it out early. And we talked about how Dean and we both used to work for the same company. And a lot of what I hear from trainers is how, poorly they're paid as a percentage and the long hours. And you can choose to use the long hours. And Dean and I were pretty lucky. Dean Somerset and I were lucky that the company we worked for actually paid extremely well. And it became it's a really good environment for a lot of trainers to get a good start. Now you have to get yourself busy, that's for sure. But there's a better pay than what you're going to see. Like the company's called World Health, and World Health's a great local company. They've been around a long time. So they do pay. I think they have the industry leading pay for trainers if you are busy enough and you use the system effectively. So it treated both of us really, really well for years. And then we just finally moved on to our own thing when circumstances sort of changed and we realized that we'd grown as far as we can within the bounds of it. But a lot of these other companies, I know LA Fitness pays very, very poorly. I've got a few friends in those kind of places, and not to knock companies like that, but they charge the clients even higher rates than what I see elsewhere, and yet the trainers get the lowest percentage. So World Health as a company is in 2 cities. It's in Edmonton and Calgary. You just don't get this place anywhere else. So sometimes it's lost on me just how poorly a lot of trainers are paid in other cities working for these commercial gym chains and franchises. So for trainers, it is a great place to start, but it does require some sacrifice, and it can be a big grind.
When you got to use it for what it is, essentially it's a place to grind out experience, and because essentially you're getting clients given to you for the most part. Like you have to market yourself, but I would assume that
you'd be surprised. You actually in a lot of these companies, they're sold for you. Yeah. But in a lot of these companies, you really do have to sell yourself. You sell your own consultations or generate referrals, that sort of stuff. If you want to be busier and more successful, and to learn those skills, you'd best off put those efforts in and develop your own clientele quickly.
And we'll kind of touch on this afterwards about the social media game, but like what were you doing back then to kind of make yourself big? I know that strategy has changed, but like what was your method?
Well, that's the funny thing, because I mean, as much as I was struggling, I also wasn't doing much for myself while I was there. And I to be honest, I can be pretty stubborn. Yeah. And my opinion was that I was an employee, so I should be given work. Yeah. And like, if someone tells me I'm wrong, honestly, I think I have pretty good arguments against that. But it was also like, hey, we're not going to give you all the work you need to survive. So it is what it is, and you can leave if you're not getting it, which I ended up doing. Yeah. Even though, like, when I did leave, it was starting to get better, but there's just I treated it like I don't want to offend anyone by this, because everyone's situation is their own, but the way I treated it for myself, I was like, this is going to be the minor leagues for me, and I'm going to take the bus rides, and I'm going to eat the cheap food, and but I'm also going to grind it out and get a lot better at my job, which is I remember there was a time where my hours got split almost in half in a 2-week period over the summer. And for whatever reason, I thought it was a good time to spend $1,000 on seminars and, webinars and all this stuff. So, any free money I had went back into myself that way. And then I started worrying about the business stuff later.
Well, a lot of trainers don't take advantage of what you did, and this is why you're in the position you're in. You're investing, the available funds in those kinds of things. I've worked with a lot of people who the money that they're making is going into the bar. It's going into party lifestyle or God only knows what kind of bullshit. And I, for a very long time, was surrounded by very little of anything that had a similar mindset and wanted to learn more, continue education. It surprises me how few trainers actually approach it that way.
And that was one of the things I learned. I got into, I was going to say the game, the fitness industry, but I was a teacher before, so I started late, 28, 29. And the one thing I did notice is that I needed to put money into training, training as in seminars and stuff, because I've seen all these things, and I guess you can read all you want, but going to seminars and investing that money has been the greatest thing I've done, at least initially, because it put me way ahead of some people and there's a lot of people that don't. I would say 90% of the trainers aren't doing that unless they're forced.
Yeah. Yeah. All those hours, even all the free stuff that's out there, the countless amount of hours I just sat there, and even on times when I probably should have been socializing. Yeah. I'm just sitting there, and obviously that tells you a lot about where you should be going with your life. If you're choosing to stay in on a Friday night to watch, you're talking with Dean Somerset, I own that guy's products. So it's fun to be on here and talking about that, but I was always told by guys that I looked up to that this stuff pays off, and for me it was barely about that. It was okay, well, they say it's going to pay off, but also I just kind of really want to watch this anyways. Yeah,
that's how I started initially, and then I was like, man, I need to do this to make me better. But it was just, I want to go see these people speak. I want to learn what they know, and that was the easiest way to do it. I guess that's nerdy in a sense, but I guess it's easy if you do it. It's like a killing two birds with one stone, or stoning two birds at once. Is that you can learn what you like, and then you can get better at your business.
What is it that
exactly.
Ricky from Trailer Park says? Get two birds stoned or something like that.
Stone two birds at once.
Yeah, if you're familiar with the Trailer Park Boys,
no one's going to. Well, that's
Chad should be. You're Canadian, so
and you're from the east.
Yeah,
that's all. Do you guys listen to Trailer Park Boys? Watch.
I hear about it.
What?
Yeah, for sure.
Oh man, you're missing out. You're Canadian, man. You got to push that stuff. Support Canadian.
So Chad, with all this and talk about grinding in commercial gyms and whatnot, when did things really change for you in your career, and what was a catalyst for that change?
Well, I think there's probably a couple points. I mean, probably the biggest one, like when I left Ottawa about a year ago. And it was kind of just like I walked into a new city that, I guess you could call Toronto like Canada's most competitive city, or maybe busiest or something like that. But I got in here and just kind of decided to start a business from scratch, which forced me to do a lot of things that I hadn't done before. And fortunately, I did have some mentorship beforehand that kind of, gave me an idea of what to do. But things really changed when I basically, I moved to a new city, and it was either sink or swim. And, I've heard a lot of people say when people are given the chance to sink or swim, they choose swim. It started going upwards. I was forced to put myself out there even when it felt really uncomfortable. Write blog posts and write on Facebook at times where like everyone was saying it looked great and I was doing a great job, but when you're first starting out, you're actually more scared than you think you're actually doing well. But you just keep doing that, and as long as the information is good, people keep paying attention, and it drew business, and one thing leads to another, and the thing kind of spirals, and kind of right now it's kind of starting to spiral a little bit. So spiral in a good way, I mean. But that's kind of where it happened.
Well, tell us. So this is lost in the tank of podcast that never happened. Was you kind of explained a story on how you kind of moved out from the gym, you went to Toronto, and you're looking for clients, and funny enough, we're going to talk about your online stuff, but do you remember the story about maybe getting a haircut?
Well, yeah, I mean, like
I liked it. That's why I want you to retell it, because we fucking lost it.
Yeah. Well, I moved into a studio. I was in massage school for like 2 weeks, and I dropped out once the online thing, like, and the writing thing was like, okay, this is seems like a good thing, and it was like I was writing posts in class.
Yeah.
So I got out, and then I ended up in a studio. I met a guy at a party on a Friday night, and we got together. We talked in the studio, I went in there. Didn't have any clients, and kind of sat down with the owner, and he's kind of like, let's come up with a marketing plan. And, it was basically just like, run around and meet local businesses. So one day I left the studio, and, there's a hair salon next door. So I walked in there, and I didn't really need a haircut, but, they're charging pretty good price for haircuts. And I've heard that those are good people to network with as trainers, because, they got a lot of clients. They talk a lot.
You went old school.
So, exactly. So I walked in there, we sat down for a bit, and, built some rapport, and eventually, brought up training, or brought up fitness in general. So I didn't, sell him on the spot or anything, but, he's into it completely. He's been in the gym and all that stuff. So, eventually asked me what my rates are, and, gave him a low rate just to get going. And, we got started. And actually, funny enough, I talked to him about 3 days ago, so he's going to come back in. He's been out of there for about a couple months, but.
Well, I was going to say the reason why I wanted to bring it up is because, like, we're going to talk about a lot of online social media stuff, but it's not like you're just in that space. Like, you're a legit dude doing real things, and you're going to barbershops and getting clients.
Well, that's a lot of the stuff that I mean when I had no choice but to, like, because at that point I had I might have had like 8 online clients, who most of which were actually local in Toronto.
Yeah.
Or Ottawa, but at that point, like, it was like I wasn't making rent. I was living off, like, I was heading into credit card territory. I was basically living off whatever income tax I had. So it was pretty much like you either got to go figure this out, because there was no way I was going to go. Like, I didn't want to work for anyone.
Yeah.
In fitness, I just figured at this point, like, what's the difference between me working for someone else and taking less of the money versus me, like, going out and finding people. And Sure. Well, or maybe the difference was I just didn't think most people were going to hand me business anyways if I worked for them.
Yeah.
So, walked in there and it just seemed like a good bet. And sure enough, 2 weeks later he was in there with me, and then 2 weeks after that he had his fiance was in, so kind of started there. But social media isn't really different, except it's kind of nice because you can kind of hide behind a computer and do it. And I don't mean that in a bad way, but at the end of the day, sales and marketing is what it is. It's go present yourself and then sell yourself, and that's all I really did there.
Well, and what was I going to say? I was going to say the interesting part of that whole thing is you're talking about putting yourself into a corner. You went to Toronto, man. What were you thinking? Cost of living is so high.
I call it the best and worst decision I ever made, and and it increasingly becomes a better decision.
Yeah.
Not even just the city itself, but just the decision to do something completely what I still consider kind of crazy. Because there wasn't really any I left I forget what the raise was, but I think I was getting a $6 or $7 an hour raise. Yeah. At my old gym. So I had just gotten a pretty good raise that was about to make the job pretty stable. And I just, screw it, just left for the big city and started from scratch. But now it's just what it forced out of me was pretty incredible.
Well, and was that, did you force yourself because you knew it would back you into a corner? And the reason why I ask is we had one of our other guests, Michael Dietrich. He pretty much did the same thing. He's just he went right from school to just training, left town. Yeah. And he's it forced me to kind of be on the ball. Was that the game plan, or was it just, I'm just quitting because I don't want a boss?
It was so much harder than I could have ever thought. Yeah. It was, and Toronto's more expensive than I was expecting. And, I haven't taken a day off. And this isn't hashtag grind type stuff. This is just pay my rent, or actually also just falling in love with the business, to be honest, and what it can do.
Yeah.
But it was harder than I had expected. So it forced a lot out of me, more than what I was thinking. I mean, there were some nights where I was pretty scared, but that again,
because you're in Toronto or because of training.
Yeah, there's some nights where I'm in a corner crying, just a mattress in the corner without any furniture.
Rice cakes.
Exactly. That's not the case, but there were some nights that were you can paint a picture to describe it, I guess, but it wasn't really the plan. But to be honest, I had talked about this for a few years. I envisioned Toronto just being a better market to be in. I thought it was exciting. I was hitting 30. Ottawa's a small city, and I kind of just wanted to make the move. But honestly, it was something that I talked about for about a year and a half. And one friend, over a couple beers, just kind of poked me and said, it's about time we stop talking about this and just do it. I was just oh, fuck it, I'll just do it.
I was going to drop the same line. Stop talking about it, be about it, I think is what they always said in football.
Well, I've been in your shoes too, and I actually grew up in Newfoundland. I was through my late teens into my late 20s. I was in St. John's. So St. John's is a city, depending on what part of it you count, it's 150 to 200,000 people, the greater area. Yeah. And I do know the experience of leaving that as an adult, going to a completely strange city, had a couple of friends here at the time, and just dropping in and really not knowing what I was doing. And some of the stuff, the stress that you described, I had those nights, and I didn't jump right into the fitness industry. I wasn't even in that at that point. So it was a longer journey. It's a much longer story. That's not really something I want to dive into right now, but I can relate to what you're dealing with. And I think maybe a lot of listeners can probably look at this at some point in their life where they weren't doing very well, or maybe they're staring that down right now. And I hope that either it resonates with someone and they can remember what it was like to work through it, or if someone's facing that, well, just keep working your ass off, because a lot of us have gone through that. And maybe it's easy to look back and say that now, but just stay on course, I suppose, is the best thing I could possibly say.
Well, go.
If it's in the name of, I don't know, if there's a reason for it, if there's actually a good reason, I think you'll know it. Just because you're scared to do it doesn't mean it's probably the reason you should do it. But honestly, it's been I've had some of the hardest days of my life here, but also by far some of the highest highs. So I think chances are, if you're ever wondering about like making a big move like that or a career switch or something like that, truth is deep down you probably know it's the right one. And if you're scared to make it, that's probably all the more reason to do it. Just say screw it and do it.
Yeah.
Because truth is, like, the amount of times that like I was scared, stressed, like, and like, you know, to this day I'm still like, you know, have trouble with the business and all that stuff. But you know, it's I kind of lost my train of thought there. But yeah, you like, chances are you just know if it's the right way to go. And you know, those hard nights are probably the ones that you like. The hard nights are the ones I miss the most. Like,
well, I was gonna say I can resonate with that. I think we all can resonate with that. But like, I was making a change from being a teacher, and like, just shit was going on with my job, and essentially I had to plan it out. But like, I dropped like a good career to do it, but it was just like you said, I knew that I had to do it. It was just a matter of the right timing, and the second it happened, I pulled the trigger. But it was pretty freaky. I was like, fuck, I'm leaving this good job, but it was probably the best thing I ever did, and you can probably agree.
Yeah, exactly.
So I do want to touch on this. So for some of our listeners who don't know Chad, or for the ones who do, is that Chad is kind of one of those guys on the Instagram space that is, I want to say, one of the infographic dudes. So he puts out a lot of information on social media. So we kind of want to talk about that change in your life, but talk about social media in general and how it's changed the game for trainers and some of the dangers of being left behind. And left behind, what I mean is not using the technology for what it can do for your career. Yeah.
Well, I mean, like, one misconception I think is that like the only way to build business now is on social media, or maybe the best way to start your online business, like, could actually be selling. You know, like, you could be talking to people at like social events and you know, walking into hair salons and stuff like that, like, or just meeting people that, you know, like, you don't have to build. Your first client doesn't have to come from Australia. So, like, you know what I mean? Like, and they're like, the fact that you run an online business, like it's, you know, it doesn't mean you have to go, it doesn't have to mean find unique clients who you've never met online. That should come probably down the road. But even if your business online, you should still be thinking locally. But as far as social media goes, like if you're doing it and the guy down the road isn't, you're probably winning, because like at the end of the day, people's eyes are on their phones. Like, you walk on a bus now and it's Instagram feed. Like, you can just see it across the entire bus. Like, if you got one guy who's walking around meeting people in person, and you got one guy who's got like interesting content that's grabbing attention, like, who do you think is getting the business? So is there an aspect of getting left behind? Like, I mean, there's no way around it. Like, and I would love to battle it, because I'm not as much as I'm on social media now and all that. Like, I before it, I barely used it. Like, I had a Facebook feed and I'd scroll it every now and then, but I didn't post or anything like that. But the truth is, there's no way around it. It's made marketing easier. I think it's really easy for fitness professionals to use if they can get into the habit of it. And people's eyes are all over it. And trust me, once you start doing it, you'll, like, the first time one of your friend who you haven't talked to in 5 years reaches out to you, it's like, hey, what are you doing? Like, you all of a sudden you see the power of it.
Yeah.
And the truth is when you start, like, and I say this from my perspective, when I started 12 months ago, I had no idea what the potential was. And obviously, you know, in my position now, that could, you know, come off like, okay, you may have like had a unique situation that you grew pretty fast or something. There was still things I noticed before the Instagram thing happened that, like, I didn't really understand how the marketing will work across social media. But if you just get down to posting every day, you start to run into opportunities. People see you more. You begin to be surprised how many people see it.
Yeah.
And it's rewarding for business, but also like your social life. I mean, you'll you know, if you like beers, you'll probably get bought more beers
as an added feature.
If like, the truth is, people start to feel like they owe you something if the content of that is actually good. And
basically, you're telling all our friends to buy us beers.
Yes, I feel like I get bought more beers now.
So if you're listening to this and you're listening to our podcast, this is free content. Yeah. We live locally. We drink beer.
Well, one of the first time I ever met Chad, and I got to hang out with him a little bit, he was on the tail end of a pretty rough night in Kansas City. You probably remember that, don't you, buddy?
It's an average night. Chad
likes his beers.
So, yeah, in the first podcast, this was actually like the pre-podcast conversation that's actually found its way onto the
I remember
second.
Chad said specifically, "Don't talk about."
Well, the Kansas City is just a giant shit show.
They all had lots of fun.
You know, it's like I remember I had a bottle of scotch and then like I left it for a bit and Alan Aragon polished it off. It's like, all right, it's Alan Aragon. I could live with that. It's a good time. So I'm looking forward to it again this year. A thought that I had with all this, and unfortunately I've seen this a little bit, especially with new and young trainers, you can see that them really tackle the social media end of things. And it looks really good and it looks really polished. But they still have work to do with the in-person quality of the experience with the client, if that makes sense. Little things like professionalism, engagement, exercise selection, and that knowledge base. So someone can come off really, really polished and skilled on their social media, but it's still really important to nail the core skills, the core quality of the experience. Otherwise, the social media stuff isn't going to matter very much.
I'd love to touch it. So, I mean, I see online training as a career progression for trainers, and I actually see it as a progression for clients too, as a means to stay under guidance longer of a trainer, and also to pay, and also to inevitably like end up paying less. But also as a trainer, like if I wasn't like, and I you know, I'm not one of these top guys in the industry that like, you know, I learned from Eric Cressy, but I'm not like, I'm on an anatomy wizard like these guys. But the one thing I do well is I can pretty much teach anyone how to do the basics very, very well. And I use it every day over video, over screenshots, over email sending to clients. The fact that I became good in person, before I went online was a huge, because I think I would be really, really stressed out because, online now if I didn't have that, because like the amount of stuff I can show now where I've like basically corrected clients over the internet. Like my brother's my brother's long distance, I'm actually teaching him how to deadlift right now online. So it's like but if I didn't if I couldn't do it in person, I don't have any clue how I would do it online.
No, that makes a ton of sense. So this obviously impacts how this affects clients, potential clients, you know, fitness enthusiasts. And of course, we're talking about the social media side of stuff and the online stuff. What else does this mean for those people? Like the big push for social media, the growth of online training.
What does it mean for who? Sorry.
What does it mean for our clients, our potential clients, and just people out there, fitness enthusiasts? How does this change it for them?
All the people.
Yeah, I mean, like, I don't know. I've you know, you can go both sides. Like, some people say like online training is like, you know, the worst thing ever, but truth is like if it's done right, it's a huge opportunity for like everyone. It like I told someone the other day, I was like, I would not be surprised in 5 to 10 years from now, online training was bigger than in-person training. If it like, I mean like actual one-on-one coaching, not like the world of, all the other ways that money can be spread around through online means, but I mean like at the actual training portion. Because like, you know, like I have, you know, what do? I'm doing about 15 to 20 weeks in person right now. And most of them are actually in the process of becoming online clients. So, and it's probably going to get to the point for me where, like if you want in-person training from me, it's probably going to be like a 2 to 4 month, like bridging process. So you learn how to lift or something like that and get comfortable with it. And then you're going online. And the more that happens, the more online clients I have, and the more trainers learn how to do that, the more people they help, the more flexibility they have. Like it actually becomes a career where like you don't have to work, 5 a.m. to 8 and then go back for your 6 to 9 p.m. You can just do one of those and do the rest of your work online with clients that you actually have a real relationship already with. So it's you know, it makes it cheaper for people in the end. It makes them more autonomous. It allows them to keep their flexibility. It's just like there's a lot of good things about it if it's done properly. But the key is that it's done properly. And trainers need to still be very skilled. Like it can't just be an online thing.
Well, it goes to the difference in, we kind of touched on this in the last podcast, but that difference of being a person who just gives out a program and someone online, and then someone who is a coach online, which are two different things, because you can have the program, they can do it, but without proper coaching, which is harder to do online, that program is almost null and void. And that's kind of where I think that you're going with the whole doing it right type of thing.
Yeah. And, the challenge is like, as much as we know the program is only so like the piece of paper with the exercises on it.
Yeah.
Like we know what that piece of paper means. We know it's individualized. We know like why the exercises were chosen. The truth is the average client or potential client still just wants the program, and that's what I had a lot of trouble with, because like if I gave someone my rates for online, they'd be like, "Oh, I'm going to pay that much for you just make paper for me."
Yeah.
Like, and that's the kind of eyes that some people would give, because most people out there who are looking for help think that that magical piece of paper that a trainer carries around is actually the end all, whereas there's a lot more to it than that. So the coaching process almost happens and that's part of the that's part of what goes into when I'm making an infographic. I'm like, what do I want to teach the potential client? Because now they're always like, the amount of clients that I get now, that the first thing they say to me is, "Oh wow, you clearly know your stuff." So all of a sudden, I've tried my best to teach them for free, but they also come in thinking, "Oh wow, this stuff is a hell of a lot more complicated than I thought it was. So maybe I should pay for it." So like it's a tough one. Like that can be very frustrating, because the marketing out there can be deceiving, and most people are confused. So there's a coaching process that happens before, and obviously a coaching process that happens during, and it's never just about the piece of paper. You got to be a human being. People are looking for support. People are having trouble with their personal lives. Like, you're managing all that. To be honest, I think it's absolutely hilarious that I can be put in a position to deal with the stuff that I do after a weekend certification. Yeah. But the truth is that like, if you the cream always rises to the top. If you're good and you're willing to handle that, and you love the job, and you end up realizing that there's a lot more to it than just handing the client the piece of paper, or even just doing the exercises right, you can thrive. But I mean, the other thing you got to realize is people out there are looking for support. They're looking for someone to believe in them. They're looking for someone to tell them they did a good job. Yeah. Because like people go to their jobs a lot of times and just get smashed in the face all day. And they want the opposite from you.
And I guess that goes back to the whole point of being a coach and being able to evaluate some of those things, because you're not going to get every client like that. And no. I guess that's part of the whole coaching process, is teaching people that it's not just about the piece of paper, because just even if you use the program, for example, a perfect program is shit if you do everything wrong, as opposed to if you have a simple program and they do it right. And I see that with a lot of your infographics, is you go, I don't want to say you go simple in terms of like the stuff that we know, but it is actionable, and you're not giving them freaking dynamite in your infographics that they're going to fuck themselves up.
Yeah, it's and it can be challenging sometimes to come up with the right stuff. Like, I do a lot of forum stuff and a lot of like really basic programming stuff, and it's fun to watch people interact, because all of a sudden you get a little bit more, I guess you could say, ballsy in terms of like the language I use. And I don't mean in terms of like cursing and all that. I just mean like the fact that now I can use the word hip hinge, and a lot of people watching kind of understand what that means. Yeah. Whereas when I first started posting, it's like, people, deadlift hurt their back. So, so like now it's like you start to get an educated audience where like the comments come through and new people come in, they start reading that. So it's a chance just to educate people, and then show them what it's all about. But, and you get to put your own sprinkles on it. But what I hope everyone realizes is that behind the scenes, my clients always get more. They get more out of me. They get calls when they need and all that stuff. So, there's a lot to this whole thing, to be honest. Okay. Helps out.
Let's move over to like mainstream media, because I guess social media is sort of mainstream, and there's the greater mainstream media. Let's talk about being dishonest with everyday people about exercise and nutrition, and what the dangers in this. And what I mean is, there's people out there, I'm not going to say names this time, but
Dr. Oz.
that they're just putting out information that's plain wrong. And what's the danger in this for the end user, and how do we combat that as fitness professionals? Or how have you tried to get into that world?
Well, I said this the other day. I was like, you kind of have a decision. Like, if you're in marketing and you're in business, you basically have a decision in this world. You can either sell lies or you can sell the truth. I think selling the truth is actually quite a bit harder. Like, if you understand how to sell and how to market, like, you can pretty much decide to kind of sell either. It's a hell of a lot more fun and rewarding to sell the good stuff. But the truth is out there is that, like, that just means, what I'm trying to say, I guess, is that people can be manipulated. And, I mean, now judging with more and more interaction, I see, quite clearly just how confused people are. Yeah. To a level that, like, honestly, like, I can be reading through my DMs or something at like 11 p.m. where, I've got to get up for a client in 6 hours. And it's just like, oh my God, I got to answer another, question about, how crunches aren't going to get rid of your, ab muscles and all this stuff, and, taking questions from all over the world. But, it's I've always looked at it as like, I'm basically competing against the bad guys. Like, yeah. And if, I don't know if that's too honest, but that's the truth. And all you can do is hope that, you put out, like, I guess, man, like, how do I, like, I end up spending probably about 8 hours a day on Instagram. Yeah. And a lot of the motivation to do so is because the more I post, the more good stuff goes out, and the more I'm on there, the more I can help other people who are putting out the right stuff. And I mean, maybe there's behind the scenes, there's just this, there's good part of me that thinks that we can come out on top.
Well, and really, and I would say even in the last couple months, is that infographics, and we'll just use infographics because that's kind of what you've dived into, have taken off even to a greater extent than when they first blew up. And they're filling people's feeds to the point where, like, that's going to be a large portion of what they see. So I think that the fight is, at least the scales are turning just slightly, and hopefully it does pay off. I don't know.
It's, man, that to me, like, when people try to put down social media, I'm like, you know what? You have a decision as to, like, whether people realize this or not. You have a pretty good decision as to what hits your feed the most. Yeah. And that's commenting and liking. The problem is people are still out there, like, liking Kim Kardashian stuff. But truthfully, like, the fact that, I can be just one guy with a phone, putting stuff out there, gives the good information a chance to, hit enough people locally. But if you hit enough people and grow, I mean, all of a sudden you're finding people all over the world. So, I mean, there's a lot of opportunity there to educate people and kind of, I guess, win this tug of war.
Now let's take this over into social media even further, and about how easy it is for unqualified people to spread, again, that potentially dangerous information. What do you think about that?
Yeah, how easy it is to find bad information?
Or how easy it is for unqualified people to spread that dangerous that bad information.
Yeah, I've gotten some schooling, I'd say, on like how this happens, and like, truth is, if you can scare someone enough and talk to them in the language they understand, and you can provide them some idea that you actually have the solution, you can pretty much sell them whatever you want, and a couple installments of $19.99, the buy it now button. You could send them horse shit back their way, and to be honest, and to be honest, they're kind of screwed. Like, I've talked to, like, the crazy thing is now is, like, a lot of my clients that come in through online, I'm not their first online trainer. Yeah. So I've heard some good experiences. I've heard some not good experience. I've heard a few horror stories. But, at the end of the day, like no one's life is being changed by wasting $150, but that's happening all over the place. It's hard, like, but it's not something that's just in the fitness industry. It's just, it's the world in general. Like, there's a lot of people out there that think money is the only thing that matters. It's something we got to compete with. To be honest, for me, I barely ever see it because, like, all I see is, like, the stuff you guys post. Like, because I comment on it. So it's like just my feed's full of like either my friend stuff or like people I knew from high school or all these fitness pros who are actually putting out decent stuff. When I hear all about the stuff that's out there, it's like I'm only starting to hear about it because the questions I get from people are like, "Hey, I'm following this program from this person." I go, check this person out," and they're like, a huge fraud.
And that's a good point, even to navigating social media. Is that I remember when I had like another account back, and even when Instagram was first out, was you're just following everyone that's like famous and doing all this stuff, and like it's changed now. But if you like and comment on that stuff, it fills your feed with basically like shit. And then you could just have this whole area of shit just filling your feed, and people are like hit in the face with it constantly, where we don't have that problem because we're following basically fitness professionals and our friends. So I don't get to see the greater shit, and at this point I just go look for it just to reinforce that I'm doing things right. But that's not a good place to be in.
Well, yeah, like I don't really pay attention to the magazine rack because I'm walking by it in the stores, and I say anymore, like in the last 5 to 10 years.
Yeah.
Because like my eyes just don't go to the places that the typical person stuff. However, I do understand it, and it's not like I'm better than you are because I know what not to pay attention to. I'm just more educated on this stuff than the average person is. But it's at the end of the day, like I said before, it's just something that. When I get up in the morning, like there is part of it that's almost a mission to put out stuff that's actually useful for people, that actually does help. Knowing that if I don't do it, the chances are that their eyes are probably going to hit a 6-pack abs in 6 minutes type thing, or or whatever bro out there has his shirt off on Instagram, like telling him how to get rid of the belly fat because he doesn't have any. So it's tricky, but it gives me some purpose every day.
Actually, you hit on a point, the bros on Instagram with the 6-pack abs. And guess what? There are actually a lot of really qualified people out there who, I have great physiques, but there is a massive, massive proliferation of fitness competitors. They're often the worst, sometimes the bodybuilding industry, or just famous people for being Insta-famous, who are selling programs. We talked about this earlier, the cookie cutter stuff. And like I see this sometimes on my feed that someone is announcing that they're working with, it was just recently a guy that I am acquainted with announced he's working with some guy, 500,000 some odd followers, was on a reality TV show. And I'm just like, really? And it's a guy who is like, try my nutrition, try my program, where the physique is a steroid built physique. And there's no talk about that, obviously. And they're famous for something else completely different. But people are drawn into this stuff. So I think it's important that we understand that this stuff is out there and it's appealing to people. But I also want to educate people in the fact that what you're getting is probably extremely cookie cutter, both in nutrition, in the training program.
Easy.
And you're not going to be getting a lot of that interaction, that accessibility that you described earlier. So this is what any listener who is thinking about this stuff, or learning about online coaching, it may not be in your mind right now. And maybe it's something that as time goes on, you realize, okay, this is something that could be an option. Just be really choosy about who you go after and who you want to work with, because I actually would say is most of what's out there, especially the people with very large followings and very, very polished images. And again, the polished physiques, the Photoshop physiques, that's the stuff that you probably want to bypass for the most part, because these people are not going to be selling you something of real quality.
Yeah, and it's partly why I want to get, like, as I get more video from clients and the corrections and stuff, I kind of want to post more of that stuff. It's like I don't think enough people understand that stuff. Well, that probably that does differentiate a good professional from someone who's probably just like selling some sort of diet plan or whatever. But it's just an opportunity to educate people on what's important. But the various, I'm glad you corrected me. There's tons of quality professionals who are on social media without their shirts on, which is absolutely true. But again, like, it's just like, how does one person tell which one is better than the other? So it is. I don't think it will ever change the fact that the truth is like what I know based on my work and the amount I see now is like I think people would be shocked by just how many people struggle with this stuff. And if there's a problem out there, there's a feeding ground to trick people into buying stuff. And it's I don't think we'll ever fix it, but if you're listening and you're a good fitness professional and you're not trying to help people more online with content, I mean, like you're doing yourself and the people around you a disservice by not giving out quality information.
That's the area in which they're looking at and working through. I guess that's the language they're listening to in a sense. And you've kind of seen that influx of people just responding to that. And like you had one example of an old friend would catch up with you because they saw something you wrote, and I think that I've had that a few times, and you just realize how many people are actually looking at that, even if they're not liking. They're creeping you, and they know. People know.
You're like when I got started, like I actually thought that, like, to be honest, I used to think there was no money in running a fitness business, and the truth is, like, I mean, there's tons of people willing to pay for services if they think you're going to help them solve their problem. Yeah. And it's and your buddy, like the guys you used to play hockey with, or like the people who you just don't think are interested in, like, being an online client or getting some training sessions or something. Truth is like, if you have like 5 people around you, there's a good chance that like 2 or 3 of them are willing to pay into this stuff and invest themselves both, financially and also in terms of commitment, if they actually believe that someone around them can help them fix it. And the first person, and truthfully, the people around you would probably rather give you the money than try and find someone they don't, because the fitness industry doesn't have a lot of trust. I think most people know that you can hand your money away, and if someone around them actually seems qualified, like that's where you start. And I mean, like I said before, like if you're good, like start showing people.
You actually hit on a good point there too. That if you have someone around you who is caring, or you get a little feedback from the chat, everybody.
Oh,
all good. We'll fix it.
It's definitely off.
1 second. Sorry, folks.
Keep
so I'll just make the point here is that if you have people around you who they are caring, they are qualified, seems to be okay now, then explore that option, because people, for whatever reason, I'll use the metaphor, they'll line up to, go to a Beyonce concert or her latest album, but they won't go to the local music scene to support, their friends who actually have some talent. So it can work the other way too. Sometimes people are all too willing to go and give their money to, oh God, who do I like to shit on? Oh, Paige Hathaway. She's been caught photoshopping her images, and, or people like Devin Physique, and that guy got busted for selling all these training programs, and then he wasn't even the one who was doing them and paying this girl scraps, and he was caught photoshopping his legs and his body on Instagram. So even some of those images are bullshit. So, you can throw your money at these kind of idiots. And, there's a coach nearby who actually is really, really caring, who will devote a lot of time and energy to you. And maybe they're a little newer to it, but if they're showing passion, they want to learn, they'll work with you and they'll be there for you. You're going to get a lot more out of that experience than throwing your money at some of these online people who are, hardcore industry-based people. All right, Chad, where do you see yourself taking your business in this coming year? And how does that... I'll reframe that question. What do you want to do for your clients, and how do you want to grow your current business?
Yeah, I mean, I think for the most part, it's probably going to be a little bit status quo for now. I'm not really foraying into some of the different avenues to run business right now. I guess I just want to get a solid handle on one-on-one online coaching. I'm probably, actually, to be honest, what I am starting to think is that I might maybe be cutting back on one-on-one. Yeah. And almost like starting to use it almost entirely as a bridge system into getting people online. I haven't thought too much about Facebook groups and all that stuff. It's right now, I think, like, to be honest, the interest in online coaching is getting is heating up a little bit, and the job is challenging. I mean, to do it well, it is a lot of work. It is stressful. There's actually pretty much, on top of the marketing, there really is no end to the work. So I'm probably I'll probably just be making a couple infographics every day and answering emails and getting on calls and doing my in-person sessions, and it's seeing where it spirals from there. But I think for the next 3 or 4 months, or just over this entire winter, it's probably going to be pretty much status quo.
I think a lot of time in the industry, and we talked about this in our last podcast, you pivot as opportunities arise in the industry too. And it's very hard to say, this is the course I'm going to take and this is where I'm going to be, next year. So we're probably running a little short on time here. So let's get to one of my favorite questions. And we asked this last time and you gave me shit online for bypassing it. So on social media, have you read any great books that have influenced your career success or life?
Yeah, I think. I went with. The one I gave a shit about, that was So Good They Can't Ignore You.
Right.
I forget the author on hand, but
that's Cal Newport, right?
Yeah, there you go.
Because I just read his book Deep Work, which I thought was incredible. So that's going next. All right.
And I think the next one is The Slight Edge, which, the short description on that one is basically just how, the same habits you can use to get yourself out of a pickle, credit card debt or something like that, are literally the same type of habits you can use to build an increasing amount of success as long as you keep doing them. So, and sometimes I often remind myself of that, if I want, even in a hard time in a business day or something like that, or, just a hard day in general, I know that, if something was working, I can pretty much calm myself down by just saying, okay, if you just keep doing that, things are going to keep working. And the truth is that in my past, or, maybe what a lot of people do is something goes wrong and they just stop doing what they were doing entirely. Or they get out of their hard spot and stop doing the thing that got them out of their hard spot, when if they just kept going, they'd continue to move forward. So that book was pretty awesome, actually. It's
actually one of my top recommendations. I have 4 books that, if anyone asks me where to start with this sort of idea, because I post a lot of books online, Slight Edge is one of those 4. And you nailed it. It's about everyday basic little behaviors and habits that they don't lead to overnight success. And the whole idea of overnight success is an illusion. Everyone you've ever seen, music or career-wise or whatever, that you found out about them and they seem to blow up, there's probably 2, 5, 10 years behind the scenes of hard work that, no one saw. Like you're a couple of years grinding in a commercial gym before now all of a sudden your Instagram is blowing up really big. But these little behaviors, if you do them, reading good books, the financial, being smart financially, it goes into fitness, good nutrition on a daily basis, exercising very, very regularly. Yes, none of this stuff is going to transform you in one day or 1 week, but added up over the long term, it develops a base to work from and a traction that at a certain point it starts to take off. And then that's how these big successes are built, is by those daily little habits. So I think The Slight Edge is actually one of the best books that anyone could read. And I'm going to put So Good They Can't Ignore You in the queue, because I was really impressed with Cal Newport's other books. So that one's happening. You'll see it on my feed. And if I get distracted, I just started a new one, but after that, if I get distracted, you can give me royal shit. Okay.
I'm just impressed you keep finishing all these books. I have such a bit of opening up a book and reading a few chapters and just getting derailed. But again, that's just the
he's fucked, man.
Maybe I should just read Slight Edge again.
His trick, and I've kind of figured it out a little bit. Sometimes he'll read, but it's audiobooks. I would say, and you've kind of correct me if I'm wrong, because he's crazy, but he literally is listening to an audiobook most waking hours.
That's a bit of an overstatement. So
80% of waking hours that he's not training.
No, not at all. So I'll tell people how to do this. So everybody wants to read more. Go ahead.
People give me crap about not paying attention to CNN and the news and current events and stuff. And honestly, I don't pay much attention.
You mean fake news?
I looked up
some
the
people
coffee
on fire.
shop,
I love teasing that.
and I think 8 of 10 headlines had the word nuclear in it. and if your head is in an audiobook or a book, or you're doing your work that you love, honestly, you're probably in a better space for it.
Yeah.
Well, tell us, break down. We need to help Chad out. Andrew's going to let you know on his secret. I know you've been teaching us some shit, so Andrew's going to teach you some book shit.
Well, this is for everybody. So if you are someone who is serious about wanting to read more, okay, first of all, audiobooks are great. I actually read them, hands-on books too, and you can chip away at those. But audio is easier to, keep your attention, I think, especially while you're doing other things. You can't read and drive at the same time, like a book. That would be extraordinarily dangerous. I think people do it. That's kind of fucking horrifying. But you shouldn't be doing it. But you listen to an audiobook and you can generally pay attention to it. So that's one thing. And, we all drive, most of us drive a fair bit, to work or whatever. So you could actually chew through, I don't know, maybe even an hour a day, if not more, on an audiobook. Most audiobooks range. Sometimes they're 6 to 17 hours long. Another trick. Listen to it on 1.5 times speed to start with, okay? It speeds it up a bit. Move up to 1.5 times speed. That's very accessible. I actually listen to audiobooks now at 2 times speed, and I find it's great. Don't start there. That's going to be really, really hard. But listen to them on greater speed, so that way an 8-hour book becomes a 6-hour book at 1.5 times speed, so you're getting through them more. If you're driving an hour a day, and that's the only time you listen, well, then you're going to get through that book in a week. Think about that. 1 book a week. Imagine how much information you're going to get from that. There are always people who are going to be arguing, oh, you can't absorb that much from it, blah, 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 this kind of crap. That's largely an excuse that people use who feel bad about the fact that they don't read enough to try to deter someone who is consuming tons and tons of information. That's all that crap is. So don't let that garbage just deter you at all. Yes, if a book is really fantastic and you can draw from it, go back and listen to it again. Go back and read it again. There's nothing wrong with that, right? But for the most part, I think there's an advantage in just subjecting yourself to a lot of different varied high quality information. That doesn't mean you can't slip a novel or some lighter fluff in there in between once in a while. But if you just expose yourself to tons of this information, good things are going to happen. And the most successful business people in the world on average read a ton of books. Another time you can listen to an audiobook is while you're cooking. We all spend time cooking. I put my phone, my audio stuff through a speaker in my kitchen. Put it on blast.
80% of his time.
and so now I can't do this. This doesn't work for me, but some people actually put audiobooks on while they're working out. That one's weird for me. I need music. But so there is a lot of time. It's not like you're sitting down and on the couch and paying attention to an audiobook. You do it while you're doing other things that you have to fucking do anyway. So you're cleaning the cat's litter pan and taking out the garbage last night. I was listening to an audiobook while I did that stuff. So this stuff adds up. So this is how you can get through this stuff.
Yeah. And actually, if we got to add on, there's a lot of people out there that say, reading's useless if you don't act on it, which is absolutely true. But the thing is, if you're constantly reading, you're probably just going to start acting on it, acting on certain things, even if it seems really slow. Just by taking in that stuff, it's going to start to become a part of you that, even if you aren't everyone, I think sometimes people think they got to take these massive leaps into their uncomfortable zone or whatever you want to call it. Whereas if you're just reading this information, it's one way to leverage the idea that, the 5 people who are closest, you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. I mean, if you just ignore all the people around you think might be holding you back, and you just spend a lot of time with, authors who are also successful people, I mean, you're probably actually just becoming a little bit more like them, and eventually will actually just start to take on their actions, even if it doesn't seem like it's obvious.
Now everyone's making me feel bad for not reading books. I'm gonna get audiobooks. I read, but I need to get audiobooks.
Reading infographics and picture books.
We're just dumbing down information. Actually, that maybe we're reading will help because I can.
Dude, I'll get you the audio version of the Dr. Seuss collection, and we'll start from there. Okay.
If it's like a good reader, it'd be good.
Dr. Seuss is racist. Yeah, that's social justice warrior bullshit.
No, we're not going down there. Okay,
I love
Chad.
Going down there.
You look what you did to. You made him talk about Dr. Seuss. God. Yep. Where can people find you? So we're talking about infographics, and you obviously do more. You do nutrition. You do coaching. Where's the best place that people can find you, reach you, and kind of see what you have to say? Yeah,
the place I'm on the most is Instagram.
Infographics.
Actually, what am I going to go do after this? Instagram, I'm at Chad Hargrove 1. And you can find me on Facebook. Probably, I'm on there, and I'm not posting as much right now. But if you search my name, I'm probably come up, especially if you're mutual friends with these guys too. But that's pretty much it. If you want to email me, chad@chadhargrove.com, and that's about it.
Basically, it was great to have you, man.
Yeah.
So for anyone listening, this is our second podcast. So actually, I'm really happy with how it went. But it's one of those things where we could probably do 4 of these and the conversation would always be different. So Chad's one of those guys you should follow. And again, I think from even last time, you're putting up more infographics than last time. So it's just a matter of, he's a guy that if you want some digestible information, go follow him, go read him, go vigorously consume everything he has. You'll at least learn something. Much like if you don't read any books, you ain't gonna learn shit. If you don't get on Instagram and follow good people, you won't learn jack shit about good stuff. So
yeah. So yeah, thanks for doing this all over again. The cool thing is a lot of the really good podcasts that I follow, Jordan Side, who I know you know, they do that online business podcast, and they're always talking about how they buggered something up and then they had to redo it. Som can't be there this time, and they're trying to remember.
We did that. Ideas. We basically did that, Chad.
Yeah. So
yeah,
we're like that. We're basically Jordan Side.
You listen to that and you're like, we got to do that one time. It's like, hey, Dean, you got this one off.
I fucked it up. We're deleting it. We're doing it again.
Yeah.
Oops.
No, his hard drive was full. Anyway, thanks, brother. We really appreciate you coming back for this one. And this is fantastic. So, guys, thanks for having me. Thanks for tuning in. Oh, no, you go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. It's always, second time now, but fun to chat always. Easy conversation.
We're having you back. We're having you back.
Thanks to all the listeners. Guys, give us a 5-star review on iTunes. That'd be really appreciated. And have a great day. Thanks.
Shut up and sit down.